Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech,
And this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
and welcome back to the Snob OS Show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. We definitely want to say thank you for coming back to another episode. This is episode 214 of the Snob OS Show. So we definitely, as always, want to say thank you to those who continue to support the show, continue to listen to the show, continue to share the show. We need you to do those things. Definitely download, rate and review, share the show, tell a friend to tell a friend. We all need that support. So we definitely want to thank you for that support. If you really want to support with your financials, with your coins, definitely go to patreon.com/snoboscast, and you too can become a snobist. That's what we affectionately call our Patreon supporters, to where in addition to just getting a cool name, you also get access to our pre-show. This where we record some exclusive content that you won't hear on the actual show that airs every Friday. And you get to listen to the show a little bit earlier, so you don't have to wait until Friday if you don't want to. So we definitely want to thank those supporters for that continued support. We're going to jump right into the show. As always, we start with the lowdown, where we talk all things Apple. So we talked about this before, but it seems like now this week, Apple has finally released the rapid security response update for iOS 16.4.1 and macOS 13.3.1. So instead of Apple launching or releasing iOS 16.4.2 and macOS 13.3.2, they have released something that is called a rapid security response. And basically what that does is exactly what it sounds like it does. If there are important security fixes and patches that Apple needs to get out, that's not necessarily an update. There's no new features. There's no new emoji. There's no new whatever the case may be. It's just, we need to patch this right quick. This is what Apple's going to do going forward, called a rapid security response. So I'm just going to quote this from Apple real quick. The rapid security response provides important security fixes and is recommended for all users. The update comes in around 85 megs for the rapid response for 16.4.1 and macOS. What I say it was 13. What is it? 13.1. 13.3.1. Even though the update is appearing in the settings app, it looks like an update. It's just like a security response update. So you go find it the same way you go find all your updates. If you're on an iPhone, you go to iPhone settings, go to security software updates, and then you'll see it there, but it'll be listed specifically as a security response update. Mm-hmm. So you can actually choose whether, like, let's say, for instance, I'm on 16.4. And I have these rapid security response. You can actually choose between updating the iOS to the newer features, or you can just download the security response. So I just want to put that out there because we talked about it, but we haven't seen Apple do it. So this week, this is the first iteration of the security response.
Yeah, and I believe some people are having issues with their install. I didn't have any issues, but I know that some people were indicating that they did get an error, unable to verify security response when they tried to install it. I don't know. Did you see that when you did your update?
I didn't, but it seems like, according to the story in 9to5Mac, it says iOS security response failed verification because you are no longer connected to the internet. So I don't know if people are trying to do this over cellular or just over Wi-Fi, wherever the case may be. But it seems like Apple has a fix for the fix.
Right.
The fix being the security update or the security response update. So now they've put out a fix for the security response update. So it seems like all that has been patched already. But again, like I said, to get to it, you go to iPhone or iPad settings, general, software update. And then for Mac, you go to system settings, choose general in the sidebar, and then click software update to get the security response update. So I did download those for both my Mac and my iPhone. Still, I got a couple family members in the house with multiple devices, so I haven't sent out the bat signal yet, but I'm definitely going to do that this week. But we just want to let you know that update is available, and it's a little bit faster. It's not as cumbersome as
Right.
a traditional OS update.
Yep.
All right, so that's it. The next story I had up is the Apple Card savings. So we talked about it last week or the week before when it first came out, and we went ahead and walked you through going through the process of updating or creating the savings account. And it looks like a lot of people did it.
A lot of people did it.
On its first day, Apple Savings received $400 million in deposits. And I would assume, as of this recording, they have reported $1 billion in a week after the launch.
That's
so
insane.
I think, yeah, right. I remember we were talking about, I don't know if we mentioned it. We talked about maybe how this is bastardizing Goldman Sachs version of their high yield savings account.
Mm-hmm.
Getting $1 billion, I don't think they tripping all that much.
Nobody is tripping off that. $1 billion in 4 days. It's like, bro, we'll take it. We will absolutely take it.
Yep. I can't think any downsides of this savings account outside of it being so easy to set up and so easy to move money in and out, which would make it so easy to spend the money. That's the only negative that I can see. But again, this is kind of perfect for people who are tech savvy, people who already have already banking on their mobile devices. A lot of these young folks, this is probably something I'll talk to my daughter about, because we have a savings account for her at a credit union. But again, she also has an iPhone. She does a lot of purchases off her iPhone. So the ability for her to use this account quicker than trying to move money between her check-in and then, whatever the case may be. And it gets a percent APY percentage yield of 4.15%. They're always talking about these. I got them little stock accounts, and they're always talking about, can I sell these? Can I sell these? Because they're going down a little bit, right? And I had to tell them, I'm like, look, you got to hang in there with stock. Sometimes it'll go down.
You can't do whatever. You can't be in there every day. You got to play the long game.
But they don't long to them. No, they don't hear that. So maybe an alternative for now would be to open up this, a savings account for them, with this 4.15% to where they can see it go up. Now it ain't gonna go up as fast as a stock, but it certainly ain't gonna go down as a stock.
It's gonna go up every month, because I think the article indicates that it the percentage that it goes up, you'll see it every month, and then of course it what's the word I'm looking for? Is it incurs? I don't think incur is the word I'm looking for. I don't know the word I'm looking for. Completely blank. But as you every month, you will see an increase in your savings based on the interest rate, and then it's not accumulate.
Compounds.
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. It'll compound. Gotcha. So each month, so you will see it going up, definitely. So for people who like that visual.
Yep. So, and the story that we're reading mentions that this savings account comes at a good time because it is FDIC insured up to $250,000, and not necessarily competition, but if you've been watching the following the economy or economics over the past couple of months, been a lot of banks that don't exist anymore.
Another one just went down last week.
Exactly. So a lot of people may look at this as a alternative to these big banks, because the big banks have been around for years. And even though this is backed through Goldman Sachs, Apple and their reputation is a little bit better than your bank. So people are probably willing to trust Apple, even though they're really kind of Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs, I don't know what that is. Apple, I know what that is.
Right. Exactly.
All right. So the next story, the last story I have in the lowdown, is it looks like Apple and Google have decided to team up to stop unwanted AirTag tracking. I mean, ever since the AirTags was created or announced and launched, people have been using these AirTags for everything except
what they were meant for.
Track your luggage, things like your backpack, your suitcase, your luggage, your briefcase, or whatever the case may be.
Wallet, your
People are
dog.
right. And I don't even think AirTags was made for
They
dogs
weren't made for
either.
dogs either. Nope, they
Right, but
weren't.
people are using them to track dogs. They're using them to track cars. They're using them to track their spouses. They're using them to be creeps.
To
So
be
if the
stalkers.
to be flat out stalkers. We've heard about people getting injured and or killed because they now know your location. So Apple has said enough. And they have partnered with Google and are working together to prevent lost item trackers such as Apple's AirTag from being used to track people without their permission. The companies came together to draft a new industry standard that will add the ability to alert victims and unwanted trackers in Android and iOS, which I thought they were already doing. I could have swore there was a feature in the AirTag to where if you have an Android and an AirTag is located near you for an extended amount of time, you will get an alert on an Android device. But it sounds like
you had to have
Apple
a separate app. You had to have a separate app
oh,
for
okay,
it to
gotcha,
track it.
gotcha.
So my understanding of this is it's kind of like Matter for AirTags. So I've seen
Gotcha.
where most of the trackers that are in market, Tile, some of the other popular ones, this operating system, because you only, for the most part, you only have Android and iOS. You have, I don't know if Windows Phone is still out or any of the other ones, but the two biggest mobile operating systems are Android and iOS. So they're coming together for an industry standard so that these tracking, whatever tracking device you have, whether you have a Tile, whether it's an AirTag, this standard on the iOS will work for these trackers. So you don't need a separate app. Whether you're on iPhone or Android, the standard that's going to be built into the iOS and the OS, I'll just say that the mobile OS, it will do the tracking. And if you have a tag with you or a towel with you that isn't yours, it will notify you. So you don't need anything separate. And I think one of the biggest issues that came out of this was people who had Androids, if an AirTag was following them, they didn't know it because it wasn't natively built. But this new standard is supposed to remedy that regardless of the OS you have on your phone and regardless of the type of tracker that you have.
All right. Apple and Google say the features will be completed by the end of 2023 and then implemented in future versions of iOS and Android. In addition to just AirTags, the change will also allow other lost item trackers, such as those made by Samsung or Tile, to build similar iPhone and Android alert features. So, like you mentioned, since it's a standard, it's not just a standard between Apple and Google. Samsung, Tile, or anybody else can actually use the standard to implement the same sort of alert features. So that's good for everybody because, again,
absolutely,
we took the AirTags and turned it into what we wanted to use them for.
Misuse the poor AirTags. Everybody was excited about the AirTags when they first came out. And then, creeps and jerks and, just bad people got a hold to it because, if you want to be a bad person or a threat actor or a malicious person with malicious intent, you're going to find a way to corrupt the good. So I think it's positive, and I think it's definitely the right direction for both of these, huge mobile phone giants to come together and say, okay, let's do something with new technology, new standards, new protocols, new guardrails have to be put in place. So let's get together and do this and get this done.
And you got to always revisit things, right? Because
yes, absolutely.
you can have every intent on how something is supposed to work, and then you give it out to the public, and the public decides how they're going to use it. Same thing with Twitter. Twitter's turned into the monster that it is now because the public uses it for that. Same thing with an even better example is OnlyFans. OnlyFans was not supposed to be for porn. But people took it and turned it into porn.
We are like we're in a pandemic. We got to get this money however we can get it, and this is the way we're gonna do it.
Right. So, So again, Apple definitely had to revisit that because people were doing something other than what they were supposed to be doing.
Yep.
All right, so that's going to do it for the lowdown. We're going to get into second string where we talk all things tech. Looks like Google is going passwordless. Instead of you using a password, it'll be able to support pass keys, which are attached to your mobile device, or 2FA and or 2FA. So think like a little key fobs and things of that nature. But typically, pass keys are attached to your mobile device. A new cryptographic key solution that requires a pre-authenticated device like your smartphone are coming to Google accounts on all major platforms starting today, I guess Friday. As you hear my voice, Google users can switch to pass keys and ditch their passwords and two-step verification codes entirely when signing in. So they're skipping passwords and two-step verification. According to Google, well, in general, pass keys are safer, more convenient alternative to passwords being pushed by Google. Of course, Apple, Microsoft, other tech companies are also aligned with this FIDO. I guess I want to call it FIDO alliance, which is right, FIDO alliance. They can replace traditional passwords and other sign-in systems like 2FA or SMS verification with a local PIN or a device's own biometric authentication. So basically that's the answer, right? Since most of the smartphones now use either thumb or Face ID, same thing with Google, they have both thumb and Face ID. That is more secure because it's something I am. Mm-hmm. Nobody else has my thumbprint. Nobody else has my face. Mm-hmm. You know, somebody could hack into my computer and get my email. Somebody could hack into my phone and get my SMS. So traditionally, how passwords are two-factor authentication works is I have to be something I know, which is my password, and something I have, which is my phone number. So when you log in using your password, the website says, we want to make sure this is you. So we're going to send a text message. Well, if somebody has my password and somebody has hacked my phone, they can also get the password too. Yeah. And then they can log in, right? Well, this passwordless thing is like, all right, yeah, you may have their password. Yeah, you may have their text phone number, but do you have their face? And do you have right? So that's likely to be spooked or phished or be able for somebody to obtain versus just getting your password and your email and or your text message. So yeah, just want to put that out there that they are stepping that up, which is good because, you know, we talked about it before. iPassword is tripping over the past 4 months. You know, some of these other password managers are not as secure as they portrayed them to be. Since we are already using our Apple devices like iCloud and Google, you know, it's good for Google and or Apple to offer up their own options since we're already using their devices.
Yeah, because just today, someone tried to hack my Best Buy account.
Oh, wow.
Tried to reset my password. So they emailed me the new pass, you know, the 6-digit key you have to enter to say, you know, hey, you know, this is me, I'm setting this. So then I had to go in, I had to change my password. And then I thought I had two-factor authentication turned on, but I didn't. So I was like, let me go ahead and turn this on because people can just, if they know your email, they can go to pretty much any site and say, you know, forgot my password and, let me reset it. Let me reset it. Yeah. So yeah, and then, this is definitely a way to fight that.
Yeah. Because once they lock you out, you know, it's hard for you to get back in because they have your email and they have your
it's hard to prove you're you. Yeah.
Right. So all right. So the next story I have is Pornhub being petty and has decided to block the entire state of Utah. So I don't know how folks in Utah are gonna feel about that, but it seems like Utah is launching a age verification law which targets publishers distributing material deemed to be harmful to minors on the internet. And what Utah is doing is they're putting the responsibility on these publishers to verify who they deem age worthy. And what Pornhub is saying, nah, it should be on the device, whatever device they're using to access our website. That should be how, you know, age verification or whatever is working.
Right.
But Pornhub said, all right, well, since we've at an impasse, instead of arguing about this anymore, and I
Shut it
quote,
down.
until a real solution is offered, we have made the difficult decision to completely disable access to our website in Utah, which is so petty, right? Because
Very.
the way they announce this is if anybody in Utah goes to the Pornhub website, they are met with a adult performer. Her name is Cherie DeVille, and Cherie DeVille lets folks in Utah know that
What's up?
too bad. So
sad.
Yeah, too bad. So sad. Figure something else out. And we implore you to go back to your Utah representatives to come up with a better decision.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. In January, a law requiring adult websites to deploy age verification measures and ensure their visitors 18 or older went into effect in Louisiana, similar to Utah. Pornhub, however, didn't block all users in the state and is currently verifying people's ages in Louisiana's digital wallet app for driver's license. So that's the workaround is Louisiana has some sort of digital wallet app for driver's license. And that's how Pornhub was like, all right, that's cool. But Utah was kind of like, nah, we ain't doing that. It's totally your responsibility. So Pornhub was like, nah, we're just going to stop anybody in Utah with an IP address from Utah to access the site. So we'll definitely see. Hold on, one more thing. Lori Schlegel, the Republican representative who spearheaded the age verification law in Louisiana, explained she championed the bill because she believes that the digital world needed adult-only zones, such as bars where patrons are asked for IDs. At least 24 states, including Utah, followed Louisiana's example. So blah, 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 blah. So I think it all evolves.
So basically, it basically just says that Pornhub isn't against this age verification because they have it implemented in Louisiana. Mm-hmm. What it's saying is Pornhub opposes to the way that Utah is trying to do it. Utah is trying to cobble together all of your identification, and who knows what they can do with that, because I think Utah is one of the most conservative states. I think they have a huge Mormon population.
Right.
And, with the way that the country is going, with the way that they're trying to, completely discount people or, for lack of a better term, throw them out of, the mainstream population of what's acceptable. Pornhub is like, well, we're not going to participate in you gathering the government identification method from our users. Now, if you want to do like Louisiana, and they have digital ID, so that's what they are doing their a verification on. I don't know how that works exactly, but I'm assuming that it's like one of those things where the digital ID can say, yes, this person is over the age of 21 or 18 or whatever the number is, without having to actually see the ID. The device is telling you, the digital ID
that the person is old enough.
Is old enough. Right. I think that's how it works because, Pornhub is allowing it. But Utah, they want the actual ID information. And Pornhub is like, no, we don't need the information from the people. We just need to know if this device says that they are of age of consent to have access to the material. So y'all gonna have to get on VPN over in Utah, I guess, if you're trying to get on the Pornhub.
Right. And you mentioned that Utah is a conservative state, one of the more conservative states, in the country, and it's a big Mormon population, but apparently that ain't stopping folks from going to Pornhub. So I don't know what,
it's the appearance, I think, that they're trying to portray, that they are so chaste and virtuous, but we all know most of these super conservative states are the ones who are out here getting into wilding. The most quote unquote trouble. They are out here just being heathens, for lack of a better word. Right. But yeah, so, but I think they want to give the appearance that they are, so righteous and all these things.
Right. So this brings up a good point, right? I remember when there was a battle between HD DVD and Blu-ray. There was two different formats to get this HD content on your television, right? And I haven't done any research on this, but I'm pretty sure the deciding factor as to why Blu-ray beat out HD DVD was because the porn industry latched on to Blu-ray. And then that kind of toppled the scales towards everybody adopting Blu-ray. So to fast forward to this story, we've talked about it. We've been waiting on it. Apple announced the ability for digital driver's license to be uploaded and verified in your iPhone. But there's only like 2 or 3 states have done it. I think
Arizona.
Yeah, a couple of Maryland. Arizona, Maryland, only 2 I can remember, right?
Yeah. But apparently
everybody
Louisiana
else
has some sort of digital ID.
They have some sort of digital ID, which allows them to access Pornhub, right? So similar to how DVD or Blu-ray won out HD DVD, I think porn again is going to be the deciding factor into how fast these states start to adopt these digital driver's license, because people are going to they got to get their porn.
Now listen,
on, so.
Porn is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Just like people, are down on drugs and alcohol, these are multi-billion-dollar industries. Now they may not be industries that are considered quote unquote good or righteous or pious or whatever word you want to put around it, but people are out here getting it in on multiple fronts. So you have to go where the money is, and the money is in these things. So people are going to have to adapt, because again, they want this money, and these industries drive a lot of businesses, countries, industries. So if they want to continue to rake in this money, which they do, they're going to have to make some concessions to get on board and maybe speed up some of these processes that they have been so far willing to kind of drag their feet on.
Yeah, and reading a little bit further into the story, a Pornhub spokesperson told us that Utah does have a digital wallet, but it can't be used online like Louisiana's. Pornhub
said, what's the
point
of having a digital wallet then?
I don't know. Pornhub said the team did try to find a workaround solution that uses for age verification, but ultimately it didn't work. The Pornhub spokesperson also revealed that despite complying with Louisiana law, the website traffic has dropped 80% in the state since it started requiring ID-based verification, probably because people trying to go to the website don't want it to be known that they're going to the website, because they have to produce identification stating that they're going to the website. But what the spokesperson said is that users had most likely just moved to other sites with fewer safety and privacy measures in place, and that the only effective age verification solution is at the device level.
Yeah. So and ultimately, all these other company websites are going to follow suit, because if they want to stay in compliance, they're going to have to put some, like I said, some additional guardrails on to make sure.
But what this kind of meant to me, what that part said to me, people are just going to go to other sites.
Yeah.
Is Utah, do they really care about making sure that users are identifying themselves for more privacy and more safety, specifically more safety? Or did this person in Utah, this Republican, I think I lost her name, this Republican representative, Lori Schlegel, just identify Pornhub as one of the main names in order to make a name for herself and say, oh, you're the problem as to why whatever is happening, when in fact it ain't just Pornhub? Because if you do this to Pornhub,
you're doing it to other sites too, right?
Well, no. if you're just saying Pornhub has to do it, because this doesn't mention other sites, it just mentions Pornhub. So if Pornhub is like, all right, cool, we will on our end verify these people. The people going to Pornhub are going to be like, oh, I gotta submit ID. Hell no, I ain't doing that. And then they go to another site. What are you fixing if you're not telling all the adult websites to come up with a way to
I see what you're saying.
verification?
She went after the biggest name in,
right, in the game.
The game, and like making that the big splash thing, kind of like I would talk about everything always goes on Apple when other people are kind of doing the same thing, but you get the biggest punch when you go with the biggest name. So I get that. That makes sense.
Right. Yeah. It's like, are you really helping everybody, or are you, picking
helping yourself to get these votes?
Right.
To say this is what you did.
So we'll see, because like you said, pornography in general is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it just ain't gonna stop because one company decided to, or one site is down because of whatever reason. So, all right, so that's it for Second String. We're gonna move right into For the Culture. So, being a single person, I wanted to get your take. I wanted to get your take on the, I don't know if you've heard about this controversy.
Yeah, it's been going off in my group chats. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to try to cue this up real quick so people can see what I am talking about. So give me a second here. Let's see our screen. I'm going to click that. And we're going to, let's see, show on stream. All right. So let me find it. All right, let me know if you can hear this.
You said that you cannot teach a man or tell a man how to be a man. So I will not ask you to indict men in this question. But I do want you to speak, Ayanla, to how women need to, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have our crowns right, how we can create and not build, when some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
if he owns the bus? If he owns it, if he owns the bus,
that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem. Okay. Because the standards and requisites, and I'm not talking about him laying on his sofa playing video games all day. I'm not talking about that. But the standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in this society. I would date a bus driver if he loved driving the bus. If he was a man of integrity, if he was good to his mama, if he treated me well, I would date a bus.
All right. So it kind of cuts off there. And I think somewhere else I think she's explained herself.
She did a video today.
Okay. I haven't seen that yet. But as a single person, what is your take on the idea that what's her name? Ebony Williams. Yeah. Yep. The idea that there are some people that she wouldn't date based on, I guess, economics. And then what is your take on Iyanla Vanzant saying basically it don't matter how much he makes as long as he's good to you? I'm kind of surmising, but that's kind of like the take I got. I just wanted to get your opinions as a single person, because I'll be honest, I'm glad I'm out the game. But as a single person, what is your take on that? I mean, how do you feel on this stance, or what's your stance?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is the way she asked that question was quite frankly unfair. There was no way a Black woman was going to be able to answer that question and win. Because if she would have said yes, then people would have said, oh, you're lowering your standards. You aren't dating at your station. And as we see, when she said no, if he owned the bus, we've seen the backlash that she's gotten as well. So first, that's the first thing. There was no way for any, and I'm saying, Right. And I'm saying specifically for Black women, because Iyanla framed it as women, but this question, this type of question, does not get asked to any other ethnicity of woman as much as it does Black women.
Okay.
So that's first. The second thing is there are women of other cultures, other races, non-Black women. They go to college specifically to have a better pool of men to choose from as their husband. They don't actually go to college to get a degree to use it. They're going to college to meet someone who is getting a degree or who is going to use that to get an advanced degree in order to find a mate and a partner. This third thing is, I wish Ebony hadn't come back and did the comment that she did, because honestly, the response was
worse.
It was worse.
Oh,
it
no.
was.
I'm going to go find it real quick.
Yeah, go find it, because it's one of those things where it didn't do her any justice. My thing is, if you said that you would not date the bus driver, but you would date the man who owned the bus, then that is your right. That's your privilege. That is your that is your personal preference. No one ever questions anybody else's personal preference. And when I say anybody else, I mean a non-Black woman's preference. It's always Black women should just be happy with what they get. You should just, take what you can get and be happy, because there's already a smaller amount. You should look up Mark Hill's response as well, because he did a good response to her.
Yeah, I saw his, right.
So it's one of those things where we know, particularly in the Black community, a lot of times, and most times, Black women are basically pushed, forced, encouraged to go to college, because you have to be able to provide for yourself. You can't count on no man, because you don't know what's going to happen with that. He can up and decide to leave you, and then you're just going to be out. So you have to be able to provide for yourself. So Black women are the highest educated demographic in this country. They're going to college all races,
at a greater clip than anybody else.
Greater clip, home ownership higher than most other demographics as well. So what happens when you have these conversations? Yes, it's great if he's good to his mama, if he's good to you, but there are some women who it is important that their partner is in the same price bracket, because of the simple fact that it leads to other issues when you are not balanced. It's a lot of times where if you make more than the man, it's, you're demeaning him, or you think you're better than him, or he feels a certain kind of way because you make more, or you're the breadwinner. So it's not just simply on how the person treats you, or that he loves his job, or that he is a blue collar worker, or whatever the case may be. There are other things to take into consideration when you're trying to partner with someone. Me, I love to travel. And it's one of those things where if, say, you did date a bus driver who makes, say, $50,000, say I make $150,000. What you're doing, how you're going to live, people say, well, then you have a $200,000 income. But the thing with that is, to me, it adds additional stress on the relationship, because money is the number one reason for divorce, right? It adds additional stress. It adds additional pressure on the relationship, because again, in most instances, particularly with Black men, I'm the head of the household, I'm the leader, those types of things. If there's a huge disparity or a huge gap in income, that is undoubtedly going to find its way, and other issues are going to come up, other things are going to fester. And if we're being honest, dating when I was younger, I would, because Atlanta, first thing people ask, what do you do? Where did you go to school? Those are the intro questions. And when I would tell people, what my education is, what I do for a living, particularly in guys, it was a definite shift in attitude And so then there was one point where I wouldn't say what I did. I wouldn't say what my background is. I would basically dumb it down. And then I realized, like, what the hell? If I have to dim who I am, if I can't fully be myself to protect your feelings or to make you feel better, then that's not someone I want to be with. So this Ebony K. Williams, she's an attorney. She hosts a TV show. So dating.
Isn't she like a reality on one of these reality
Yeah,
shows?
she was on one of the reality shows too. It's one of those things where if you're saying, you know, someone who had a salary that was in the range or in the band of a bus driver. So say if it was 2 bus drivers, then you ask bus driver woman, would you date bus driver man? More than likely, I don't know. It may not be the same situation as it was with Ebony. But when you take, it's economics. It's things we don't like to necessarily talk about because it doesn't make us look good. But at the end of the day, these are real issues. These are real things. And if you're building a life with someone, they may say up front, yeah, I don't mind. My lady makes more than me. I'm cool. I'm good. I don't have a problem with that. 9 times out of 10, eventually, something is going to spurn out of that. There's going to be maybe some resentment, or, you know, they don't want to tell their boys, you know, my lady does this. Oh man, she make more than you. So then they get clowned that way. So it's, even if they're okay with it, there are also other things that can make them not feel as confident about it. So to me, it's one of those things where if you have your standards, then go for it. Will it take you longer, possibly, to get married, find a compatible partner? Sure. But those are the choices that you get to make for yourself on how you choose to go forward with your life. And if you realize that you're putting yourself in this higher tier, so to speak, you realize that your options get smaller the higher you go. And unfortunately for Black women, that's a lot of us, because like I said, Black women are the most educated demographic in this country. So you just have to be aware. If there are people who will say, you know what, I don't mind dating someone who makes significantly less than me, that I love him, he loves me, we're partners, we're good together, those kind of things, then that's your choice. And you roll with that and you be in that. I don't think that she should be shamed for the choice that she has made for her life. And that's essentially what has happened over the social media discourse.
Well, so I think the issue with how Ebony framed the question and then even her response is exclusion. The way she phrased the question, she even excluded. There's a difference between preferences and what's the opposite of a preference? I can't think of the word. Anyway, I think people feel excluded. Okay. And that's never a good feeling. Right. So when Iyanla asked Ebony, would you date a bus driver? Right. The idea that this said bus driver, Iyanla never said, would you date a bus driver making $200,000 a year? Of course, that's far-fetched. You know, you would have to own the bus company, but also like driving, almost like you ask somebody, you say, what do you do? Say, oh, I work on cars, right? In your mind, the person hearing that says, oh, he must be a mechanic. And then you do the quick math, and maybe mechanics get up to $80,000 a year, whomever this person is. Let's just say Ebony, she's making $200,000 a year. Oh, no, he's excluded unless he owns the repair shop and the repair shop pulls in $1 million a year. Right. So I think what people are responding to is the exclusion without the extra conversation. Right. So if Iyanla would have said, okay, would you date a bus driver? And Ebony in real time out loud said, well, me personally, I'm at a stage in my life to where, I'm at this level and all the things you just said, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as a result of all these things you said, I would prefer somebody that's at my level because I've made it to this life, yada, yada, all the things you just said, right? But I would consider dating a bus driver based on his goals and his dreams or whatever. He may be driving, he may be just an employee right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if I sat down to talk to him, he said, I got goals to own the whole bus company. I'm just getting in. This is my end. I'm going to network, whatever he's going to do, his game plan, right? And my goal is to be an entrepreneur to fit her thing. Then she said, okay, I would consider it, right? But the fact that Iyanla asked her the question and she said, and I'm paraphrasing, she said, nah, I ain't dating no bus driver. He got to own the company. That immediately excludes bus drivers particularly, but in general, people who make less money than her, right? And Iyanla's response was, no, that's wrong because you got to consider all these other things. Personally, you mentioned Mark Lamont Hill. I agree 100,000% because it is unfair that Black women have to go to college to get an education to make money versus their counterparts can go to college to find a man. Black women can't do that because, they outnumber Black men at colleges. Black women have to go to college to get degrees to make money because they have been turned into
conditioned
into to be the head of households, right? So once they get to this level, I am a firm believer in get in where you fit in, right? So if she is a celebrity, she makes all this money, she does all these talk shows or whatever the case may be, it makes sense, not just preference, not just exclusion. It just makes sense for her to want somebody that's already at her industry, at her level, whatever, because it makes sense because that's where she is in life.
In this I'll cut you off. But in this romanticized world, it would be wonderful if you could just say, you know what, you are a bus driver and you make this amount of money, but you're good to me and you love your mama and all these things. In a romanticized world, that is ideal. That's great. That's perfect. But we live in what we call the real world, and that's just not how life works. It takes money to live. It takes money to have the life that you've envisioned for yourself. And as a Black woman, if you are making the money and the things to live out the life that you've dreamed for yourself, it's hard. It's really hard to, I guess, kind of step backwards almost, because you've worked really, really hard. You've taken so much crap to even get to the position where you are. And then you're expected to just say, well, yeah, it's hard for him, growing up, he didn't have this or didn't have access to that, or didn't want to go to college or want to, step outside of, whatever it is, the industry that he's in. But then you're like, on the other side, I worked really, really hard to get to this point and to make this life for myself. And now you're trying to say, well, I shouldn't think that way. My thinking is wrong because, you shouldn't, just automatically exclude all these people just because.
Right. And again, I think her delivery was wrong.
Yes.
But I also believe that, again, just excluding people, right, without doing a better job of explaining yourself, again, that's going to rub people the wrong way. And additionally, somebody made up a good point. I can't remember who it was, but I was like, yeah, that makes sense too. A lot of the pushback, again, I can only speak for myself. What happens in reverse a lot of times is if you ask, I think you brought it up. If you ask a bus driver who happens to be a woman, or she's a nail tech or whatever the case may be, not a lot of times, it's not hard to, if you ask that woman that's a bus driver, would you date a bus driver? her response would be the same. It would be like, no, he got to own the bus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost not, hypocrisy is not the right word, but I think a lot of people, when you solely base it on how much money you make,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's the impression, not what her intent was,
Mm-hmm.
but the impression was, well, he's got to make more money, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think, when in reverse, a lot of men who make a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
are work
Would
hard,
they date
whatever
a
the
bus
case may be.
driver? Would
Well,
they?
I think surprisingly, I think a lot of them do. There's stories, there's songs to where, she's a nurse, say, what I think, and it's not fair because we look for women for different reasons. We look for women if they're pretty, if she's fine, if she's beautiful. We don't care where she came from. She could be working at McDonald's. If she's fine, we will take care of you.
But
because
women, we
that's
don't
our
have that luxury.
but right. But women in general, you look for men for security. You all right, is he going to take care of me? Right. So I don't think that's fair. But again, I am a firm believer of get in where you fit in. So I think it's totally fair for a woman to say, okay, I've made it to this level. I move in these different areas. I want somebody to move in those areas as me, the same as me. And I think in reverse, I think men should start doing that as well. It's like, you know what? I have strived to X, Y, and Z, and I want you to be doing the same thing too. Me personally, which is I'm glad I found my wife early. I'm glad I'm out the game. Because if I was meeting somebody for the first time, I'm like, yeah, I do this, that, and the third, whatever. And she said, nah, I just do hair. I'd be like, I guess, I probably would be on some Ebony, like, do you own the salon? If you don't own the salon, then, and you don't strive nothing but just do some hair or do some nails, or you want to be, the hookah girl at the bar, that's all you want to do, then go with God. Right.
Yeah.
So I firmly believe in getting where you fit in. And I think a lot of people don't do that. And when people like Ebony do that, unfair to women, they kind of get this, oh, you just date men for money.
But she's the one that has money too. So that's the thing that is.
Well, that's not necessarily the case. That's my point.
Right.
That's not necessarily the case. She's not just looking for somebody who makes more money.
She's looking for an equal or someone and the range of her same level. And I think, like I said at the top, the way that Iyanla asked the question, that pretty much boxed her in. It was basically a yes or no question. And then Iyanla, when it was her turn, she's like, well, I would because this, because that, because that. Yeah.
Right. But so.
And Ebony's delivery was kind of, I think it was her delivery. Yeah.
Right. And
I think it was her delivery.
It was just no, because he's broke. Right. Because
that's what people heard.
Because, but a legitimate response would be, sure. Okay. Men with money are the most self-centered, misogynistic, abusing people on earth, but you would consider that guy, and this is just me assuming, you would consider that guy because he moves like you move, he makes the same money you, but he treats you like trash, but you would still consider him over the bus driver who would love you, right? So then
but
again,
broke boys be the same way too. So
exactly. So I think the reason why people jumped on it is because you got to consider more things, and the fact
that's
that
not what you're supposed to stay as a Black woman. You're supposed to always uplift the Black man. You can't possibly make him feel down or bad about himself. She should have said yes enthusiastically, and she would have helped him with his business, or bought him the bus company if she got all this money. That's when people, to me, when I see people with some of these comments, that's what I think. They hear what affects them or from their point of view in these types of conversations.
And it's very gender specific. So, a lot of the men are like, girl, you tripping, whatever. So it's very battle of the sexes as well. Again, that's not helping either. I just think, I think her response or her question was personal, but she tried. I would have liked for her, and I'm talking about Ebony. I would liked of her to keep it personal, and
say for me in my
right, this is what I'm looking for, this is whatever, you know.
But the way Yana asked the question, she said, would you? So it was her. She wasn't asking for all Black women. She was asking for her.
But the way she posed the question,
right?
The way she posed the question, she's like, Black women, you know, we. But then Yana asked her personally and said, me, no. Right. I would have, I think, the way Ebony posed the question, I think she should have posed it. Say, look, I'm coming to you.
Before she threw it to Yana.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha.
I'm coming to you as a Black woman who's achieved a lot, and I'm having trouble finding men in my status, in my what should I do? Then Yana, whatever. But I think
dating is trash out here. I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Yeah, like I said, I'm glad I am out the game, Jack. You know, but I like I said, I ultimately, you know, I think people got triggered because because they made it personal.
They made it personal,
and that's what people do. And
so people like Ebony was like, yeah, she's not saying nothing wrong. People like the bus driver was like, oh, she's just this, that, and the other. Black women but Black women that maybe not at the level of Ebony, then there's like, oh, she just superficial, blah, blah, blah. So it's just like you said, everybody took that statement as a direct implication or a direct hit on them as a person when she was speaking for herself, even though she posed the question as women in general. But when the question was thrown to her, she was speaking for herself. So yep.
So good luck to folks out there dating, because
I'm telling you, you don't want to be out here.
Right. All right, that is going to do it for the Culture. We're going to move into the hookup. And something that I learned recently that makes sense: if you are experiencing your phone getting hot while you charge it, probably what you should do, and Apple actually recommends, is probably because your phone cannot not conduct. But what is it? Pass off. That's not the right word. Can transfer heat faster because it has a case on it. And Apple actually recommends that if you're going to charge your phone, whether or not it gets hot or not, the phone has a tough time of transferring heat. And I know that's not the right word. Dissipate. Yes. Thank you, Charles, in the chat.
He put it in there. Okay, good. It just hit me when you were taught when you went. I was like, oh, that's what he's getting at. Yeah,
you said it and he said it right at the same time.
Okay,
your iPhone has a tough time dissipating heat when it has the case on it. So if you are charging your phone and you notice that it gets hot, and Apple actually recommends whether or not it's collecting or it's getting hot, Apple actually recommends that you don't charge your iPhone with a case on it, especially if you are noticing that it gets hot. So that is my tip for the week. If you're going to be charging your phone, especially if you're going to be charging your phone for long periods of time and you don't want your phone to get hot, you want it to last as long as it possibly can, because these phones ain't cheap, it's actually a good idea if you take your case off before charging your iPhone. So that is my hookup for the week. And as per usual, that is going to do it for this week's show. Nica, tell the folks where they can find you. You mentioned in the pre-show that you were on DTNS, so let the folks know what you were up to this week.
Yeah, so I was on DTNS on Tuesday. We talked about a lot of fun things, so definitely check that out. And other than that, you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva on all of the social media sites.
All right. And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH. If you want to find out more information about the show, if you want to support the show, if you want to listen to the latest episodes, if you want to support the show financially, please go to snoboscast.com. That is our website. And like I mentioned before, it'll give you the latest episodes. It'll give you the ability to listen to them, whether it be on the website or your podcast player of choice. It'll give you links to support the show. It'll give you links to our social media, whether it be mine or Nica's, or you can follow us, like I mentioned, on social media at SnobOScast. So if you do that, we would greatly appreciate it. But until next week, we are out. Peace.
Bye, everybody.